Without further ado, good evening, everyone present. Thank you all for coming to today's public hearing. And to the viewing public, it is now 5:38 p.m. and I call this NR hearing to order with myself, one, two, three, four, five, six members present. We have hereby established a quorum to conduct today's business. I just want to recognize um, we have Representative John Poe to my left, the Vice Chair. We have Representative BJ Atal. We have Representative Marissa Flores. To her left, we have Representative Diego Camacho. To his left, we have Speaker Edmund Villagomez. To his left, we have Representative Manny Castro. And to his left, we have Representative Roman Beneventi. And to my right, we have Representative Malcolm Omer. With that being said, we are here to discuss the proposed amendments with regards to the Manigaha Islands or island, sorry. Um, and we're going to be discussing the amendments based on NMIAC subsection 145-30 015 definitions and NMIAC subsection 145-30 101 uses and privileges. Can I please get a motion to adopt today's agenda? Motion has been offered and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Today's agenda is hereby adopted. Next on our item, we have public comments. Does anybody if anybody in the gallery wish to give their public comment on any item on today's agenda? If so, please state your name and agency that you represent. Uh, just have some housekeeping rules because we have so many people in the public. I believe there's going to be a lot of comments that's going to be made. So just please be mindful that your time will be allowed 3 to 4 minutes in order to ensure that all interested parties have the opportunity to be heard. And with that being said, I thank you for your understanding and your cooperation. Um, Again, please state your name for the record and the agency you represent. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Angela Camacho, fellow committee members, and everyone present here this evening. First, I would like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be heard. My name is Elsa Duenas Nieto. I'm a native of this beautiful paradise, and I also represent my company, Captain Knight's Boat Charter LLC. I'm here to oppose these proposed changes the DPO wants to impose on Manigaha, especially the part that gives Marianas Global Inc., or MGI, full exclusive rights to marine sports activities. I understand that this provision or rule already exists in the contract under use and privilege section 3 page 3 of MGI's contract that states the following: the master concessionaire shall have 100% exclusive rights to marine sports activity on Manigaha Island during the term of this agreement. Now, that little word on bothers me because to me that doesn't mean outside of the land, off the land, out on the pier, or outside of their lease zone, or as they call it, the ECA zone. And when us boaters or marine sports companies, when we bring our customers out to Manigaha, tourists or local, no money is exchanged out there. Most payments are made by online bookings or on Saipan before boarding. I believe only Marianas Global or MGI exchanges money on the island if a customer chooses to go with them or another marine sport company. That's the only time that money is exchanged. They basically already have exclusive marine sports on Manigaha. But I still think everyone has a right to choose where to go, what to eat, what to rent, where to sit, and where to swim. These people are not robots. They're paying customers and they deserve the right to choose what makes them happy because that's what we promise them when we invite them out here. We promise them warm, happy, friendly, and safe environment. We promise them paradise and the best food and cultural experience. Can MGI meet these promises alone? There are no cultural arts and crafts for sale out there. There are no local and cultural food out there for sale. They need to be reminded that Manigaha is open for recreational and cultural purposes. MGI made promises to improve the island, clean all around, provide safety guidelines. There's still no access for people with disabilities, but they rather prioritize building locker rooms and have built restaurants. The indigenous side of the island, or the south side of the island, is filthy, it's dirty. The pavilions are slowly being cleaned, but not fixed. What about the promise to the people to give $100,000 to each Carolinian Affairs, Indigenous Affairs, 5,000 to scholarship for NMD college students, 50% discount to locals on all items being sold on the island? Have they met these promises? The funny thing is, if they haven't met these conditions, isn't it a violation of their contract? And they're worried that they're not going to make their monthly annual payment to DPL. I wonder why. Why is DPO so determined to give them more privileges? They haven't even completed their construction out there, but they want more responsibilities. It's nonsense. It seems like they want it all, but they know that they can't handle it. And we know that too, as voters. We know that we see it. They already told the media that they spend so much money in monthly obligations. Well, marine sports business is not cheap, and they know that. Their liability will triple if they take over marine sports. So I'm confused. Are they trying to make money? Or are they trying to spend more money? They're trying to save money? I don't know. For us local marine sports companies, and some of them are here, we keep our promise. We serve our local and tourist community, and we practice safety and show them our warm hospitality, our friendship, and of course, an enjoyable day out in the beach. We do this every single day, 7 days a week, rain or shine, good water, bad water. Hey, we're out there. We take the risk and sacrifices to make it enjoyable for people. Let's not forget, we also contribute to our island's tourism industry and our economy. We pay our dues, we pay our taxes, we pay our permits, our licenses, and we too struggle to make a buck. But we're out there because we love what we do, we take pride in what we do, and we show off our Marianas and we show them what we have to offer. And we're committed to that. We know the flow of tourism coming through our borders has significantly declined. You see it and you hear it in the news every day. We all feel the burden. MGI, or Marianas Global, wants to ban everything to reduce liability. And when I say ban, ban everything from outside. Liability is everywhere, even in our own backyards. Accidents happen all the time, but it's our job to ensure safety. All of us, MGI, DPL, all marine sports operators, everyone. They said our boats are old, worn out, etc. US Coast Guard does random inspections on us all the time. So we don't have a choice but to stay compliant or they'll shut us down. There's no question. And all our boat captains are US certified as well. Is MGI's life jacket US Coast Guard certified? I know all mines on my boat are. When a person drowns out here, or even dies, or especially out there, we're all accountable because that person died in our soil and in our water. Liability is what every single one of us fear. But the possibility should be expected, especially in the type of business that we do. We deal with Mother Nature every day. So I don't see how getting rid of us, outside marine sports companies, can help MGI improve their operations. And we certainly do not interfere with theirs because we bring them customers every day. If anything, we're helping them. We bring our customers there. We tell our customers, go rent their tents, go rent their chairs, go buy their food, pay the landing fee. We're bringing customers to them. So we are helping them. We're not challenging them. Now, as far as banning outside food and drinks, I get it. But there's other ways to deal with it rather than forbidding them to bring food. Simply advise customers not to consume outside food in the MGI zone. It's that simple. Don't embarrass us by searching through their bags like they did a few months ago. That was terrible and probably the worst hospitality DPL could ever show visitors and tourists. First impression, pay the $10. And oh, we have to take away your bento, your McDonald's, and your Himawari because it's not allowed in there. You see how many little kids are so disappointed. It was hard for us to see that. But we have to explain to the customer that's their rule. But see, they were implementing that before we even passed the changes, correct? Flotation devices. I guess all I can say is good luck with this one. When locals swim in the swimming zone and not use their flotation devices, they're going to be told to get out of the swimming zone. Well, you're probably going to have to arrest us locals, right? Because you know the response you're going to get from us. We're very proud people. We believe in our island and what is ours. It's our right. I don't know how this rule is going to work. All I know is it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You're kicking people out of the swim zone because they have to rent your life jacket. Good luck with that. And by the way, there's your liability right there. You take people out of the safest area to swim in Manigaha. And you're going to tell them, go swim on the other side if you don't want to wear my life jacket. But swim at your own risk, no lifeguards out there. Really? I mean, it's ridiculous. Again, liability right there. And finally, probably the worst part of it is you have to hire their own photographers to take pictures. Like if I wanted to advertise Manigaha on my website, I have to hire their photographer to do so. That's ridiculous. I've taken out many bloggers through the years since I started operating out there. And I've never seen anything negative about Manigaha, maybe except the birds. But none of us can fix that problem, right? Not MGI, not DPL, not the boaters. I don't know who can, but that's the only negative thing I see about the birds that people say. Other than that, nothing negative. And I think it just all comes down to greed. MGI needs to make their monthly payment to DPL, and they're probably doing all this to make up for that. They say they spend 250,000 a month on maintenance and expenses to keep up the island. Well, they should have studied their economics before committing to a 800,000 a year debt. And as far as maintaining, fixing, renewing, blah, 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 they made that promise to us, to the people. You wanted a piece of paradise. Well, that's a commitment that you were willing to take with DPL, with our government, and most of all, to our people. So again, nobody to blame, not the outside marine sports companies, not the government, not the people. So why should we suffer because MGI cannot keep up with their promises and commitment? Whoever's advising them, especially with economics, is not doing a very good job. The economy is struggling, not just here, but everywhere. Every day we do what we can to stay alive. By closing us down, people will lose their jobs, their companies, and their livelihood. Are they willing to accept the fact that they will be responsible for these things? Are they going to give them jobs? Take away these jobs and replace them with something else? I don't think so. They should put themselves in these people's positions. Knowing that our very own Department of Public Land, Secretary Mr. Sablon, I really don't want to say this, but no other way to say it, but chose money over people once again. And I guess it's expected with this new Department of Public Lands. My mother retired back when it was MPLA. I remember Manigaha was so nice then. It felt like paradise because it was preserved for paradise. Imagine what the island will look like in the next 8 years or 13 years if MGI decides to extend another 5. God help us all. The Secretary of DPL once assured me that she will do her best to protect the indigenous people out here. Then she recuses herself from Manigaha. It's time we step in and set our own conditions. We should be able to make our demands too. If laws have to be changed to save that little piece of paradise out there, so let's do it. That's why we turn to you, the lawmakers. Please help us protect what is ours and from outside threat. I know you have the means and the power. This here tonight, you see people, we see people that are here to support our cause. It's a cry for help. I hope you listen to us, consider us, and not and say no to these changes. And think of your people first. Thank you.
Thank you for that, ma'am. If you would like to submit your written comments
Yes.
for our record, Sarge. And before we move on to the next speaker, can I please remind you guys that if we can keep it to 5 minutes, so we can see there's a lot of people present, and we want to give everybody an opportunity to speak. So please, we have a timer set up, so if we can keep it to at least 5 minutes, thank you. And please state your name and the agency you represent. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Melia Ki'ilani De Leon Guerrero Johnson. I will do my best to keep it under 5 minutes, but I will be making two different comments. I'm going to be reading on behalf of the Chief Agarup Foundation today in place of our absent president, Kodep Uludang, Ogumoro Uludang. And then I will be making my own personal comments. Again, I will keep it under 5 minutes, though. So, Tito and Hafide, Chairman Camacho, and members of the House Standing Committee on Natural Resources, thank you for this opportunity to share our comments regarding DPL's proposed amendments to its regulations. I am a member of the Hatoliol clan, and today I speak on behalf of the Chief Agarup Foundation. The foundation supports regulating commercial activity to ensure such activity does not cause harm, destruction, or negatively impact cultural ceremonies that occur on Managaha, or as we say in Rafalawash, halahal. Halahal is a place of great historical and cultural significance to the Rafalawash community. Halahal is a sacred site as it is the burial grounds for Chief Agarup. Chief Agarup is a member of the Hatoliol clan. Each year, the clan, along with the members of the Rafalawash community, gather to honor Chief Agarup. The foundation hopes that the members of this legislature will ensure that Halahal is always protected as a sacred site of historical and cultural significance, as has always been done during the 19th and most of the 20th century, while ensuring that the economic needs of our local businesses and ultimately the CNMI are addressed. Protect Halahal so we can always live and practice our culture through honoring our ancestors. Protecting Halahal ensures that we can share our cultural values and beliefs with all people of the Northern Mariana Islands and for generations to come. Olomoai. And now I will speak on my own personal comments and viewpoints regarding these proposed amendments. I want to address the proposed amendments, but also other sections of the agreement that I believe are a cause of concern. I would like to point out that as stated in both our Constitution and the current concession agreement, all public land is collectively owned by the people of Northern Mariana's descent, and that Managaha is to be used only for cultural and recreational purposes. DPL is the caretaker and the custodian for this island for the Native people. Decisions for the well-being and future of Managaha should be prioritized and not monetary and financial gain for the concessionaire. It is not the responsibility of DPL to help the concessionaire earn their income or profit, nor to help them make their monthly payment to the government. So firstly, to address the proposed amendments, I believe these amendments require some clarification and more detail. Other tour operators should be allowed to offer water sports and activities included with Managaha transfer. No operations other than the main concessionaire should be allowed to sell and market activities within their exclusive concession area. However, all applicable businesses should have the ability to offer, outside of Managaha, any type of legal lagoon activity, whether it includes transportation to and or from Managaha. Please remember that during the COVID-19 pandemic, it was these marine boat operators that stepped up and offered that much needed and appreciated Managaha transportation that was no longer available when the large tour operators shut down. The CNMI has a responsibility to continue to support them. All local residents of the CNMI should be allowed to consume their personal food and beverages in any area, including the exclusive concession area. This proposed amendment should exclude local residents and specify that it is tourists and any food or beverages acquired from tour operators, guides, and any other tourism business entity for exchange of money. Why are personal flotation devices banned in the designated swim area? Is this for safety reasons or for monetary reasons? If the reason is monetary, I absolutely agree with this proposed amendment. If the reason is safety, there needs to be clarification as to what types of flotation devices are unsafe and therefore prohibited. Why are the stipulations changing for photography? If you read the original contract, DPL collects all the fees for any type of commercial photography that's taken on Managaha. So why would we change it and let the concessionaire receive that money? I don't understand that. Having read the entire Managaha Island Master Concession Operator Agreement, TOA 23-004S, I'm formally requesting that this committee please review and verify if all requirements of the agreement are being met by Marianas Global. I have listed on my comments different elements that I feel may not have been fulfilled. One, according to the agreement, lifeguards are to be stationed throughout the island. At this time, I believe Marianas Global is only providing lifeguards for the designated swimming area in which mainly tourists swim. What about the local community? Are they responsible to keep the local community safe swimming on the entire island? It looks like that to me from the agreement. Where are the 100 coupons that were supposed to be issued to the community for all-inclusive activities? Where is the 50% discount to local residents for all services in the exclusive concession area? Have they introduced 20 new marine sports activities? I just was out on Managaha last month, and according to their agreement, they are supposed to have hourly announcements for swimming safety, marine protected area actions, general water safety, and other announcements deemed necessary. I did not hear one announcement while I was there. I'd also like to ask about the $100,000 annual contribution to both the Indigenous Affairs Office and Carolinian Affairs Office. The $10,000 annual contribution to the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs, the $5,000 annual contribution to the Chamorro Carolinian Language Commission, the $5,000 annual contribution towards an educational scholarship. And included in this agreement too is an annual Chamorro and Carolinian Food and Cultural Festival and an Asia Pacific Model Festival. I have not seen any of those happening on Managaha since this company has moved in. I'd also like to see whether they have kept up with their requirements regarding infrastructure and facilities improvement. So I truly hope that this committee will look into these different concerns and see whether they are actually living up to their responsibilities. Thank you very much for considering my comments.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Podium's still open for public comments. As a reminder, please state your name for the record and the agency you represent, and please try to keep it to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Jesus Marcy, buenas tardes, honorable Chairman, Congresos and Congresa. Na anuncio wan igwer tenorio. Toto tanapagzo. Distitutuhon niya managaha. Gituris. Si defunto tunen mampan, tumutuhon. Pura man biyo, man matututu managa, promaatan ni turis. Si tunen rekintay tano gisa tanopak. Si tunusen kituwa gisa tanopak. Si tunisos de la Cruz gisa San Roque. Man matay turistas siya. Lo siya tumutuhon. Si defunto tunen man nanagwato gi PDI. Amanteni PDI. Esta que manolmi si siya man nuevo. Finalina. Sanganizo. Masya una. Matay. Tisti matutun ituris. Dan itototono po fandanya managa. Tada. Sanganizo una. Na modmos. Managa. Distitutuhon niya estapago. Tada. Stinuevo na kumpanya. Sa lapya malagunia. Disti antes. Itototono sa moro dan rufalawas. Mandadanya dan turis. Man pesca. Man matunuzi turis. Ma-enjoy. Afa pago na para mga. Atan siya. Hafa na parondi na izo. Ni disti covenant. 06B. Ilalanya na para kultura. Da costumbre. Managaha. Tada niya pala dokumento. Ilalanya para for fun. Disti antigo. Tototonopa. Kada domingo sa obli manggagagi managa. Afa pago na para mga. Pulisti globo. Dalay. Maski 20 años si PDI amanteni managa. Tada na sa kanya tototono. Fansua. Alugad nyo fansua. Fanano magi yung fandanya dan ni turis. Tatafanui ni costumbre. Tafanui ni hospitality. Tafanui hafayin ni Chamorro dan Rufalawas. Augusti siya. Amo nga. Ano logo man nagaw doon matay niya lang? Distingayan yan no? Naprunsangan ni Zofa pabekon no? Distingayan naprunsangan ni Zomano ni pabewama. Edje ililing niya designated swimming area. Edzua. Gas. Malagunya sisa patafonoma kiji pura kuraling. Kugunun tumajo ka walo makumalo. Todo maga. Apa kumambababas sa ilunia? Palawasan man magas public lang. Dahil ay timatatay covenant. Dahil ay timatatay Article 11 and 12 of the Constitution. Todo public land giza Marianas, not the Marianas. Isuntaw tono Northern Marianas descent. Chamorros and Rufalawas. Samo sa nganganizo na tisinedo malagman naga. Como mapasas ti, be ufresyamzo, be kumbida todo ligwan na tototanopak, kada de be funano gato managa, dinarestam. Mano no, adam do na security managa, aiki, pindeya. Pero sa nganizo na mga dumanyuli na ako, janggimin. Sa fay zomo. Mano na papi de lenya ne zomo o public land. Mano na papi de lenya ne zomo. Na pun fanai. Ya para un na fansuwe tono. Po fanalo managa. Ay ki pindeha. Kongreso con respeto dispensa. Mampo sana puputizo. Sa destidi ni kikeo. Managaha. Pago ni stamp ko pa be masangani na dispensa, tisinya moto. Mga matsuli mo ginamot ang gimen mo. Todo naman managaha is on Northern Marianas descent. Chamorro, Jan Rufalawas. Ay, tito na si Globo. Milenyo fan magov, Sa tanan na utilidad po na masalapi. Mula niya umaligo yung obligasyon niya. Hafa mo ofrece tono. Antes niya manalo menos na salapi. Yung ofrecimiento ni Gagi galo mi contract o fan madulala kuzong. Doman na fanalum otro na kompanya. Anesi niya ma-fulfill hafa Gagi gi contract. Basta manugandum bi. Por favor. Ta fan para. Malaza ta fan serioso ta protegi ta tono. Lami na mampus na piniti. Na piniti. Todi nila lao mapatuzo malaga sinyo sogaw malago. Pago pa besangonin, babe masangonin na mga. Por favor, honorable Chairman Kongreso. Por favor, tilelek ko na puni business. Mga, daw ilelek ko, malaza taatan mas maulik. Nesinya mandanya i natibo sa moro sa followers. Jani bisitota, ja obligasyon ta para ta fanui ni zota hospitality, ta fanui na ta kumbibida siya ginilalong kurason ta. Pero afa ni sa lapinia, polo do magaste sa lapinia gi afa, lo ita ni natibo sa moro sa ngupalaw. Enegi kustumbeta, i para tababa kurason ta, tabapa kanaita, data kumbida halum, data nalii na sinyahin man lola, kubisito, dani tono, data fan uno, tafan sige mona giniginilota, si Ros Masidang Buenas Noches.
Thank you, Mr. Tenorio. The podium's still open. Please state your name for the record and the agency you represent. Thank you. And a reminder, please try to keep it under or at least 5 minutes. Thank you.
Tiro of a day. My name is Melvin Faisal. I'm from the Kagman, and I'm here tonight to also speak on behalf of this issue regarding this public hearing. But before I go on, thank you, Honorable Angelo Kamatsu. Thank you to the Honorable August Body member of this committee for giving us the public this opportunity to be here tonight. As we all know, exclusiveness is a monopoly, and monopolies are not suitable for the public. I believe DPL is kowtowing to whatever entity is now the main concessionaire and wants to monopolize control, not just over Managaha physically, but over what we can or cannot bring to eat and drink on Managaha, what we can and cannot photograph or videotape on Managaha, and what we can use in water while in the ocean at Managaha. So this is an apparent loss of our freedom, most especially the Northern Marianas descent. It may hurt also the local traditional healer whom they seek herbal medicinal plants on the island of Calagal, Managaha. It's a matter of great concern to see our officials once again serving the interests of the foreign business entities, particularly those from China and Korea. This is a situation that urgently requires our collective attention and action. And with that, I would like to say that DPL is overlooking Public Law 20-44. This statute identified Division of Fish and Wildlife as the enforcing entity for any and all marine sports around Managaha. Its designation as a conservative area gives Division of Fish and Wildlife the authority to enforce those activities 1 mile in all directions from Managaha. Also, I humbly request this august body to look into Public Law 18-42. And from there, this august body should demand all regulatory agencies to have a meeting with the DPL, because coastal resource management, or what is now known BECQ, should also be involved, as well as DCCA for Historic Preservation Office and the Carolinian Affair to represent the indigenous Carolinian people. And with that, I would like to say that I am a member of the Urali Followers Association, and I was tasked by my chairwoman for this organization to come here and present that we oppose this latest master concession agreement and the latest promulgation of regulation for Managaha by DPL. And I ask this august body that you have the power to ensure that there is fairness for all the people, as well as for business company that wants to have business on Managaha. And with that, thank you very much, and I submit my comment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Faisal.
And who's gonna get this? Or
Sarge,
thank you, sir.
the podium's still open. For you speak, please state your name and the agency you represent. Thank you.
Tiro, mefaisro. Nga di relay mesemek. Nga di kami samolol pulasyo yan. Isyeri we buyutem malirar mas tolap. Nga relay fayo felloway. Mermase. Nga yaya mamaw te we bu kapas ngali kami. Nga tel debong we. Awle haltro. Nga imusasay we busay ngali kami. Meta hilbuloy. Meta kasi ki wari ikila matlamal. Iteral Marcano, Gregory Michael Olpaituay. That is my name in English. My name in Refaloas is Epereng. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just heard there is Refaloas. It's the reason tourists flock to this place to see the two ethnic backgrounds of the Northern Mariana Islands. Did we forget who we are? I am here to express my strong opposition to the proposed changes to the rules and regulation governing commercial activity on Manigaha. As a Refaloas native, I consider Manigaha to be sacred land, and I am deeply concerned about the impact of these changes on our cultural heritage and the environment. Firstly, I object to the restriction on consuming personal food and beverages in the exclusive concession area, ECA. This rule change will only serve to benefit the main concessionaire, Marianas Global Inc., and limit the freedom of visitors to enjoy the island as they see fit. It is unreasonable to expect visitors to rely solely on the concessionaire's food and beverages, which may not cater to diverse dietary needs and preferences. Furthermore, this ban on outside food could have unintended consequences in the future. If locals wish to offer traditional island food or delicacies to tourists as a way to share our culture, this ban would prevent that from happening. This would not only limit the cultural exchange between visitors and locals, but also stifle the growth of small businesses and entrepreneurship in the community. I am also disheartened by the shift in priorities among businesses operating on Manigaha. It used to be that businesses worked in partnership and collaboration with local natives, recognizing the value of our cultural heritage and the importance of giving back to the community. However, it appears that now They are only driven by their bottom line and profit margins, without regard for the long-term consequences of their actions. This approach is not only unsustainable, but also disrespectful to the native people who regard Calakal as sacred land and as an extension of home to the island of Saipan for generations. Secondly, I oppose the restriction on personal flotation devices in the designated swimming zone. This rule change will not only inconvenience visitors, but also undermine the safety of those who prefer to use their own flotation devices. The use of approved flotation devices provided by the main concessionaire may not ensure the safety of all visitors, particularly those with special needs. Additionally, this ban on personal flotation devices could also prevent locals from offering traditional canoes as an alternative mode of transportation or cultural experience for tourists. This would be a lost opportunity for cultural exchange and economic growth. Thirdly, I am concerned about the lack of transparency and consultation in this process. The proposed changes were only made public on July 15th, and the deadline for submitting written comments is August 14. This is insufficient time for meaningful public engagement and consultation. And I applaud whoever is responsible for making this public hearing possible today, especially considering the significance of Manigaha Kalakal to our community. In conclusion, I urge the DPL to reconsider these proposed changes and engage in meaningful consultation with our community, and urge the members of this 23rd legislature to enact laws to protect our people, culture, and land, and prevent further occurrences of similar actions by outside businesses. We must protect our cultural heritage and the environment of Kalakal, Manigaha for future generations. It is time for businesses to return to a model of partnership and collaboration with local natives rather than prioritizing profits over people. Olomai Hiliso, and I'd like to turn this in for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Olapay. Appreciate it. At this time, the podium is still open. Again, please state your name and the entity you represent. Thank you.
Good evening. First, I want to thank Representative Camacho for making it possible for this hearing tonight. Many of us really look forward to come and air our anguish over what's happening to Managaha. My name is Florence Salpeo Kirby, and I'm a 72-year-old grandma, a mom and an auntie to a lot of you, including some of you here. This forum gives me the courage to stand before you and say my piece for us to get proactive and safeguard what is ours, especially with regards to this beautiful and most popular picnic island, Managaha. I'm here to talk about the historical part of it and the unfairness and mistakes that is in the contract that is creating much anger in the community. First, Public Law 18-42 that created the protection, maintenance, and to preserve Managaha. What is on Managaha was created under this public law to give guidelines. Under Title 32, natural resources also is a landing fee that is also part of the law that set up how much should be charged whenever you want to go out there. So under taxi tours, guests paid $5. Locals and residents paid nothing. With the new contract that MGI has, I saw that they are now going to charge $10 regardless of who you are. I don't know if it's the same with the tourists, but there is a guideline under that $5 landing fee, and that is to go towards several programs. One of them is the Indigenous Affairs, the Caribbean Affairs, Saipan Museum, the cultural heritage. There are about 5 or 6, and then the Manamkus were also inserted later on, amending to include them. Managaha Island got registered on Managaha Island got registered by the Cinema Historic Preservation in 1984. So Managaha is in the National Registry of Historic Places and is dedicated to preserve its historical significance of 2 reasons. And one is the burial place of Chief Agurup that is considered sacred to us, Tarafaluash, and and the second is the World War II fortification that includes the remnants of the bunkers and the large anti-craft gun. The CNMI Historic Preservation Office became an additional agency that should write off on anything that is to be done out there. They are to provide the regulatory and framework to protect our historical properties and to integrate preservation pertaining to the proper use of Managaha. This was not done. In the past, recreational and marine sports can obtain license to merely conduct their activities out in Managaha, and Managaha was never abused or destroyed while booming with tourists and locals. Sadly, DPL stopped and suspended all of these small tourist operator abruptly and decided to give an exclusive management contract to only one vendor, the Marianas Global. That is not right, and it's against the law. It's against the law of Managaha that created Managaha protection. The proper channel, the proper channel of this giveaway of Managaha was not considered. This company did not collaborate with existing operators as claimed, but rather informed them to either go their way or take the highway. Marianas Global also insisted that they're not striving for monopoly profits, but only to ensure customer safety and attract higher spending clients. Does this sound familiar? IPI, hello? Conflict of interest. Some board members of DPL, act as if they are representative of Marianas Global and become their mouthpiece. Their actions when evicting the 2 operators was very rude and quite unprofessional, to say the least. This hush management deal caught us by surprise. The conflict of interest among some of these board members should be investigated and dealt with. The management contract was not officially signed by the Secretary of DPL, as she had admitted, but by 2 DPL board members, which I highly doubt that it is even legal. Or is it, Mr. Attorney General? I wasn't aware that a board member can legally dispose Managaha on their own discretion, overtaking the appointed duty of the secretary. It would behoove DPL and Marianas Global to revisit this management contract and amend it to be recreational and environmental friendly for everyone again and adhere to the mandated landing fees because this landing fees is a lot of money. Mariana's Global is now charging $10 per person to all locals and resident. What is the landing fee for the tourists, their high-end clients? Are these landing fees being reported and accounted for and submitted to DPL as required by law? Does DPL have a separate account, which they should set up? A separate account set up for the program that was set forth under the law? Let us unite for our Managaha to continue its beauty through our collective creativeness and help our local tour operators to continue sharing their recreational activities without interference of exclusive decision by Mariana's Global. We should never allow businesses to assault our lands, insult our intelligence, and destroy the landscape, the historical landscape that our children could have learned from. Each of us have a moral obligation to save and protect Managaha for us and for our visitors to enjoy many more years ahead. I pray that at this tonight's public hearing, that we're not wasting our time. We want to hear from you, and please do so before your campaign election comes around. Thank you for listening to us, and we are grateful again for you hosting this hearing. Felicio.
Thank you, Mrs. Kirby. Again, the podium is still open for public comments. Please state your name and the entity you represent. And just a friendly reminder to please try to keep it to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and distinguished honorable members of this committee. My name is Felipe Q. Atlig. I'm appearing as a concerned citizen who is here to voice his dissatisfactions of the proposed lease agreement and my statement that I will deliver. I sincerely hope that it should not be misconstrued to be a derogatory aim to anyone, but strictly on the basis of what I believe after I review the proposed contract that has been submitted. Mr. Chairman, we seems to be overlooking the authority of the local mayor of the north of Saipan. If you review the Constitution, Section 6, under local land, subsection 3, responsibilities of the mayor, and subsection C, the mayor of Saipan is delegated that he can conduct, complain, and conduct also hearing on all matters pertaining to the local issues, and the findings of the mayor of Saipan is to be reported to the governor or to the legislature or even to the attorney general. This issue, Mr. Chairman, should be clarified. You have a legal attorney. I'm not an attorney, but I believe that if this is not cleared within the boundary of this, we might be facing another legal battle suits. Like myself, that I am suing the public works for a very long time, appearing as a pro se, 84 years old, but I'm still standing to defend by myself. Mr. Chairman, You cannot deny the people that inherit the land of Manyagaha through our ancestry. The proposed amendment of the rules is certainly a very discriminatory. We have to be careful with this. The mayor of Saipan is voted by the people. We are the people. The delegation of the Department of Public Land to be taking care of the public land, they're not voted. This is appointed. Where is Manyagaha, Mr. Chairman and members of this committee? Manyagaha is situated within the boundary of Saipan. Why then will I read what is the whereas that the DPL is in charge of the public land. But personally, I think it is wrong for me. The mayor of Saipan has the jurisdiction and authority of Manyagaha simply because it's situated within his own perimeter of authority and jurisdiction. So I'd like to request that this is something that you can clarify this so that there won't be any misunderstanding between the DPL and the mayor. The mayor, Ramon B. Camacho, all of us in here voted for him. He should be the right person to be included in any negotiation of Manyagaha, simply because, as I have just said, that Manyagaha is within the island of Saipan. Rightfully, we claim that it is under his jurisdiction and authority. A word of caution, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. If this is not defined, then we are also facing another violation that possibly Article 1, Section 5 and 6 of the Constitution, the due process right of an individual that have said about Manyagaha that they own. You cannot deny the rights pursuant to the Constitution, Article 1, Section 5 and 6, their due process rights and equal protection of the law. These are the fundamental issues that if we don't take care of this, any members of this, I saw the council in here, she might even file the lawsuit. But we are not here to fight and here to issue things, but we are here to voice what is the right choice. I stand before this committee to believe that Ramon B. Camacho is the sole authority for the island of Manyagaha, and he should be the one to sign any lease. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for this opportunity that you respond to the needs of many of the local people here in Saipan. And thank you very much for this opportunity. My congratulations to Manny Castro, who is also running for the Senate in this election. And all of you, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atilik. The podium is still open for public comments. Please state your name and the entity you represent. And again, please try to stay within 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hafidez and Tiro, Honorable Chairman Camacho and Vice Chairman Sablan, and to the esteemed members of this committee. I want to thank you for allowing us and making this possible to have this public hearing. My name is Diego Sablan, and I'm here on my accord as a public citizen. I can't remember a time when such proposed exclusive concession is this controversial for Managaha. Now, I say that because I moved back from the mainland in 1988. For some of you, may know that I started my career in the marine industry here in Saipan. Uh, First as a pilot for the submersible submarine and then operations manager. So I had the privilege of working with many concessionaires and all these tour agents. The larger ones are PDI and Tacitos and others that had the opportunity to be a concessionaire in Managaha. And I can tell you from my experience, reading through this, I feel like this proposed concession agreement is being changed midstream, and it's very concerning. The word exclusive, we must understand what that means. It is our responsibility to make sure that it's clearly written because we know what happened when we have exclusive concession, monopoly, and that's where we go wrong because the Constitution allows us to enjoy our islands, both the land, the sea, and everything that comes with it. You know, our forefathers, for many of them, they were thinking of us, thinking of each one of you. You weren't here yet, but they saw a vision and they wanted this to for us to enjoy the islands that we inherit, including Managaha. I have pride and joy to think that we have Managaha close by. You know, I always joke like I'm going off island. Where you going? I'm going to Managaha. You know, but really it's a place where I grew up. You know, having Chamorro descent and Carolina descent, I understand the significance of Managaha. The Constitution, you know, provides that for us to enjoy, you know, for cultural activity and for recreational activity. To give someone exclusive rights over Managaha, I believe in my view, we're asking for a lot of grievance on our end. And as you can see this evening, there's a lot of good folks out here. Just like each one of us, we love our island. And we must honor what is left. We are custodians of these islands. Now, I know we have some economic challenges in the Commonwealth, but let's not be desperate where we sell ourselves out. That's really important. This body is being empowered to make sure that everything that goes through land and natural resources is within the Constitution and it benefits every citizen of the Commonwealth. Therefore, protecting every rights of. I want to go to Maniaga. I've been there when Taxi Tours was operating in PDI and others. They've never come and say, "Excuse me, sir, but you cannot wear the floating device." Can you imagine what will happen when someone comes up? You know, as islanders, as citizens of the Commonwealth, we take pride and joy of what we have. We don't have much, but we have our island. So I strongly disagree with these changes, and I urge you, these esteemed members, to please make sure that we slow this down and review it properly and make sure that we are doing what is right for each and one of us that are enjoying this video. And even to those that are coming, that's our responsibility. Again, we are custodians of what has God given us and ancestors left us behind. Thank you again. And I don't have a lot of comment, but I've never experienced this kind of controversial. I've been in the ministries. I have good uh, rapport with all tour agents, even the ones that are still around. But this exclusive agreement is, in my opinion, infringes a lot of what the Constitution would allow us to do, especially when it comes to our cultural part. Managaha is sacred for all of us. I know that because my grandfather is Carolinian and he told me so. The significance of why we we have to honor our ancestors and make sure that our children enjoys those same rights that was given to us and benefits from our forefathers. Thank you, and buenas noches.
Thank you, Mr. Sablan. The podium is still open. Please state your name and the entity you represent, and let's try to keep it to 5 minutes. Thank you.
All right. Tiromi, Jim Rayfand. I'm a resident of San Vicente. If you can believe this, I found something I wrote 30 years ago, or approximately 30 years ago, 1995, 96. I wrote it for a class, and I couldn't resist bringing it to share with you. So I'm going to read it. I'm not going to read all of it because I'm going to try to respect the time. But you can decide for yourself if it's relevant. If you can imagine, I was fresh out of college. After my first day of visiting Managaha, I wrote this. I was inspired to write this, and somehow I found it. I wrote it with a typewriter, by the way. If you guys can imagine that. Again, I'm not going to read it all, but I'll try to get through some of it. Hopefully it resonates even today. So Managaha Island, intended by the framers of the CNMI Constitution to be maintained as an uninhabited place and used only for cultural and recreational purposes, regularly receives on her beaches a great number of foreign visitors as well as local residents. Recreation is the focal point for most people who visit the island, and its cultural significance appears to be realized only by the Carolinians. While the Carolinians consider Halahal, or Managaha, to be sacred ground, apparently others view it simply as a marketable place of business. Lino Olapay, and I'm not sure if he's here today, but Tirom Lino Arono. Lino Olapay, a member of the Carolinian community, commented with an air of annoyance that the developments and large-scale trafficking of tourists on the island is encroaching on the traditions of the Carolinians. He further stated that at the very least, some of the proceeds obtained through the use of the island ought to somehow be distributed into the Carolinian community. The tourist role in this conflict of interest is an innocent one. They come from all over the world for a fresh breath of ocean air, a touch of unadulterated sunlight, and a dip in pristine blue waters. They get and do just that. For the Carolinians, Managaha is symbolic of their cultural heritage, and they reserve it as a place for remembrance. Chief Agarup, along with some of his family, is buried there. Agarup was one of the first two Carolinian chiefs who brought their families to settle in Saipan. It is customary to leave offerings to the spirits before departing from the island. According to Lino Olapay, the fishermen always leave the best fish, and others leave such things as betel nuts and cigarettes. I was unaware of the custom and the history behind it during my visit to the island. So after learning a little more about it, I decided to write something as a kind of compensation for not paying my respects. So the following is a reflection of my day at Galahal. I would go in to talk about some of the, the frolicking tourists and all the tourists running around. I'm going to skip some of that. So from here out, it's going to be just excerpts. Starting with this one, Tasi Tours, just as a reminder, Tasi Tours, a tourist corporation which transports hundreds of tourists back and forth to Managaha on a daily basis, allots a given number of seats per trip to locals at no charge. I'm just going to skip through. The small, non-foreign contingent of visitors that I saw consisted of two young men in blue jeans and rolled up long-sleeve shirts. Right? They sat to the back of me among the coconut trees inland from the beach, seemingly avoiding too much attention. They observed the frolicsome tourists as I was doing, but they expressed little emotion, as they seemed to frown upon everything that was happening. Their frowns did not seem so much angry, but rather implied a kind of seriousness, like they were there for a reason that the tourists could not understand. At the time, I couldn't help thinking that somehow the two had missed the point of going to the beach. After all, what is a day at the beach but an escape from seriousness? My mind wandered further in thinking of the contrast between the tourists who come to these islands and parade around the beaches practically naked, while the locals, descendants of a race of people who resisted the concept of clothing, introduced along with the idea of Christianity, are often too inhibited to be seen in anything that covers less than 50% of their bodies. As the ferry pulled away from the dock at the end of the day, I stared back with satisfaction at my spot in the sand. I thought about how everybody seemed, and I was grateful for the chance to share in an atmosphere of such lightheartedness. But then my mind flashed an image of the two men with frowns. I guess they were Carolinian. I regretted not going over to say hello, maybe getting to know them a little. I wanted desperately to find out what they were contemplating. My curiosity prompted me to find out as much as I could about Managaha, and much to my surprise, the island is considered by the Carolinians to be sacred ground. I started to think how angry the Japanese would be if a bunch of Carolinian tourists climbed into one of their Shinto shrines and ran around half naked, laughing and screaming. Or what the Americans would say if they scattered themselves in the national cemetery sunbathing and playing their boomboxes. I could not decide how to feel about the situation, but I gained a better understanding for the sullen looks on the two men's faces. Sorry, I've been fighting a cold recently. In the bed that night, I tried to put into words what I thought or might have learned from the day's experience. The first thing I thought was that if in fact Managaha is preserved for cultural purposes, it is hard to see any evidence of that unless one goes out there knowing what to look for. Somehow that aspect needs to be better emphasized. Secondly, I thought about the question of respect. Everyone at least needs to be made aware of the respect the island draws from the Carolinian community. Finally, I pondered the notion of so many people wanting to spend their days on such a tiny island. What I think I realized was that for most of its visitors, Managaha has more than just a chance to swim and get tanned. I pictured the old man walking along the shoreline and the two couples bearing each other in the sand and the hundreds of other grown-ups playing like children. It occurred to me that most people came, though maybe not consciously, with an auspicious notion of being able to take a dip back in time. A first grader romps and forgets herself in a sandbox. Adults imitate her at the beach. Chief Akarup asked to be buried in an upright sitting position on Managaha. He, too, apparently wanted to hold onto an aspect of his past. So forever he will sit on Managaha, a place intended for the preservation of culture, but more often used for the preservation of youth. So, honorable members of this House, respectfully, we need you to find the balance between our economic needs and our need to preserve and respect our cultural heritage. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Riffin. Before we proceed to the next, I just want to recognize the presence of Representative Julie Ogu and Representative Vince Adan. Thank you. The podium is still open. Please state your name and the entity you represent. And just a friendly reminder, just to keep it to 5 minutes. Thank you.
With that, Mr. Chair, I want to thank you and this distinguished committee for giving us the opportunity to comment so far as the lease is concerned and the amendment to the lease. So just to make sure I'm within the time allotted, I'll just surmise my presentation and I'll turn in my testimony. Thank you. My name is Felix Nogis. I'm here on behalf of Carolinian Affairs and the Carolinian community. I just want to express that we support that any amendment to the lease itself will be limited to within the concession zone, so far as giving them the authority to ponder and run whatever activity within the exclusive zone. With that, Mr. Chair, I also want to say that we do support the continuation of local sports, water activities to continue to be accorded to the private operators. A lot of our citizens are employed with these companies. I know there's a lot of locals that have been certified, received their certification, captain to operate these boats. We also have to acknowledge that the present leasee does not have such as parasail and those kind of sports, water sports activities as of now. The third, the office recommends just off the cuff that the lease itself, in terms of the definition, please include halal, under the term definition of the act, the list itself with Maniagaw to reflect that so far as Carolinians are concerned, we do name the island Khalkhal synonymous with Maniagaw. Lastly, I want to, there's a condition under the lease that allows entertainment for whether it's nightly or daily entertainment for native or traditional dances. If you can insert in there to make sure that such term include genuine local traditional dances that reflects the island and does not reflect Tahitian dances. And in that way, our tourists will be more appreciative and learn of who we are as a people, both Chamorro and Carolinians. So with that, they have expressed, I know numerous speakers have come up here, that it is a sacred ground. We highly respect the place so far as Carolinians are concerned. And hopefully in any future endeavor, I hope the DPL would continue to consult at least the Carolinian community so far as the development of Maniagaw. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for giving us a chance to speak before you. And I hope we have made significant recommendation and you would take into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nogis. The podium is still open for public comments. Please state your bank account number and your PIN number.
Which bank? Lewangalim Chair, Mabaliami, members of this awesome House Committee on Natural Resources. You understand that, right? Ngang Denita Pialur Kaipanyang Tumay, Ngang Balashay Shelami, Rel 23rd Legislature Yen. Imushel Tangariay Tangarngali kami, Alngami la. Reliay Yuta Mawilim Mami. Itoto hila buiwapisatu buliliay isetipeli mila Marianas Global Ekemengi webuferi mewal khalkhal. I'm here now to share why I do not support what Marianas Global is trying to do on Maniagaw. The islet currently called Managaha is called Khalkhal by the followers and Maniagaw by the elder Chamorros. Number one, the Marianas Global, for the Marianas Global to have exclusive right, I know you guys are going to have nightmare on this exclusive right, to operate all commercial concessions on Khalkhal does not go well with some of the Refalwas and Chamorros who search of ways to make a little living by selling their wares to the tourists who are visiting the islet. Please don't tell us when to sell, what to sell, and at what price. Number two, if the Refalwas and Chamorros want to camp out on the islet, they should not be blocked from doing so. The islet is theirs to begin with. And number three, Section 10 of the proposed amendment lists the public benefit contribution. Again, another nightmare for you. Khiliso, because they are all very enticing, but we learned our lesson from a recently closed company that also had many great public benefits that were never delivered, and now we are left with a gigantic eyesore right smack in the center of Arabal. So please, and our chair and members, DPO Secretary or David Sablan, work together to save what's ours. There are more reasons to share, but I will leave that to the others to share them. Filiso. Good night.
Thank you, Representative Yanktamay. The podium is still open. Again, please state your name and the entity you represent, and let's keep it to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Angelo Camacho, and members of the legislative body. My name is Gary Orpiano, and I have been in the marine sports industry for over 30 years. I have I've seen how this industry often disregarded. The marine industry consists of people who personally and directly serve both tourists and local. Manyaga is the best beach for tourists and local alike. Most tourists want to visit Manyaga Island to enjoy its beach and marine sports activities. Tourists come to our island to experience this activity, which are the significant part of Saipan appeal. Restriction of outside food and beverage. The proposed amendment to restrict consumption of outside food and beverage within the exclusive concession area could be seen as unfair to visitors who prepare or need to bring their own food due to dietary restriction or personal preference. This restriction may also limit choices available to visitor, effectively monopolizing food and beverage sales for the concessionaires. Local residents, in particular, might find this inconvenience and financially burdensome. Restriction of personal protection device limits the use of personal protection device to those provided by the concessionaires in the designated swimming zone, restrict personal freedom and choice. Visitors may prepare their own devices for comfort, familiarity, or safety reason. This amendment could result in additional costs for residents who needs to rent or purchase this device. The amendment seems to expand the exclusive right to the to the main concessionaire to conduct or operate tours activities on the island. This could create a monopoly, limiting competition and potential leading to a higher prices or lower quality service due to the lack of competitive pressure. Local business and operator, unless approved by the both Department of Public Land and the main concessionaire, would be excluded from providing services, limiting economic opportunity for local entrepreneurs and small businesses. Clarity and fairness. While clarifying the scope of commercial activities is important, the amendment might be viewed as restrictive by limiting opportunities for other businesses or operators. This could stifle the entrepreneur's activity and reduce economic opportunity for local businesses that previously offered such services. Public perception and community impact, access and equity. The amendment must be perceived as prioritize commercial industry over community access and equity, leading to dissatisfaction or opposition from local residents, cultural and traditional practices. Restriction on bringing traditional food or using personal equipment could undermine cultural tradition and community autonomy. Environmental and safety consideration. While managing the island, resources and ensuring safety standard is crucial, this should be balanced against restrictions of local freedom economic opportunity. Long-term sustainability and public safety must be considered without enduring limiting the right and opportunities of local residents. In conclusion, while the proposed amendment aimed to improve the management of Manyaga Island, they also impose restriction that could adversely affect local residents both economically and culturally. These changes raise concerns regarding the balance between the resource management and ensuring fair access and competition. I urge the Department of Public Land to consider this amendment and the body legislative body and taking account the potential negative impact on the local community, exploring alternative measures that balance resource management with the right and opportunities of local residents and businesses. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Gary. The podium is still open. Please state your name, the entity you represent. Thank you.
Buenas noches. Good evening. And Tito, I'm not sure if Tito is okay at night. Thank you. I really appreciate this great body of leaders and honorable action takers for taking the time tonight to hear out the community. You can see how much passion there is involved, especially on this very hot topic. I come to you today to speak with two hats. I will start with my hat as the Secretary of Labor. As we know, this economy that we are living in right now is one that is struggling. And this kind of exclusive deal is definitely something that will put more nails into coffins that we don't want to have with respect to how our economy is going. Exclusivity and monopolies always hurt communities no matter where they are. And in particular with the marine sports industry, knowing that we are the people of Oceania, we traveled this ocean for thousands of years before any foreign visitors came. And to know that jobs in the marine industry are one of the most coveted and one of the best jobs that people often seek for, especially our young men who are on island and are working already with boats and fishing. And so having access and having a pathway to these jobs, becoming captains, is what keeps our economy afloat from, all angles and areas of this island. And so as a Secretary of Labor, I really feel that's something that should be seriously considered, that the economic impacts of this kind of decision will go further than you can imagine right now. I'm supposed to receive notices from businesses when they close. And at this point, I have not yet received any from the marine industry, but I am anticipating that if this comes to pass, that I will be getting more instances like that, which will be very hard on the Department of Labor to try and assist finding people other jobs that are not in this industry because there's no other place to go. Now, I also come to speak to you as an Indigenous daughter of the Marianas who has seen and fought against exclusive deals like this and like the other ones that people have mentioned. And I really disagree with this proposal because of the access that it denies us. Last weekend, some cousins of mine were trying to go to Menyigaha to spend that last Saturday before her son goes back to college. They were not allowed to get on island. The island was closed. The rangers did not even let them go and have their barbecue like they planned. And I had never heard of that before. Did anybody else know that? So it's kind of shocking that we weren't allowed to go for our Saturday barbecue. I've also heard someone mentioned about the photography issue. I didn't realize that that was in the language because I had been told by other people, oh, this lady was telling us, don't take pictures of the turtles. And I was so shocked, like, why not? What's wrong with taking pictures? If you're a tourist, you just want to take a picture of the beautiful beach. And they were being told by rangers not to take pictures like on their own personal devices. And maybe that's a misrepresented interpretation of what they are being told to do. But I just feel like that's so unnecessary and unreasonable. I mean, I've been a principal and I understand, policing people. Man, you got to pick your battles. Like, if you tell people not to chew gum in your class, just watch. You're going to have more people chewing gum in your class. Same things like this kind of battle to tell people what they can and cannot do on such a minute level is really unreasonable. And so with the two different hats that I shared with you today, I really appreciate that you'll give this some thought and please encourage that these regulations will not come to change what we've already known as something that was beautiful and perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Staffler. The podium is still open. Please state your name, the entity you represent, and keep your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hafade Tiro, Casalelia Menko. My name is Sheila Jack Babata. I am here as a community advocate with Community Solutions. I'm also a daughter of the Marianas, born and raised here on the island of Saipan. I'm a Precinct 4 voter. I'm an environmental advocate, former legislator, and daughter of Diego and Dolorina Babalta. Thank you so much for hosting this public hearing, Chairman Camacho, and this esteemed body. Thank you to the legislators who are not in this committee and still present, Mr. Speaker. It's so important for us to have a space where we can hear one another's voices and share concerns. Manyagaha is such a special place. We've heard so many stories. And I was once in Palau on my way to the Rock Islands when I overheard two Australian women talking about their experience on Manyagaha. And I turned and I said, I'm from Saipan, you know, and so it's that kind of experience. It's such a quality experience for our visitors. And, you know, with us always touting a luxury destination or creating these experiences, it's really important for us to keep that in mind. Last June, I had family visiting from the state of Washington. They came in for a wedding, and my cousins went to Manyagaha, and they were chased away from sitting at the table, even though they were customers. They wanted to be paying customers at the concession area. And so, you know, that was really such a heartbreaking story for me to hear, that our own people are visiting our own home and being treated this way. On the other hand, last October, a group of environmental justice leaders came to the island of Saipan, and they were here for a fellowship that I'm a part of. And we went to Manyagaha on one day on a speedboat with an 8-year-old who also came as a part of the group. And we got to the island, and there was a Chamorro boy cutting coconuts. And I said, let's go and ask if we can just, you know, ask him to climb the tree and get us one. And he did. I asked him, he climbed the tree, he twisted the coconut, and they were falling. And then he opened it for all of them to drink and have this quality experience. And they all showed gratitude through big tips, you know, and that made the Chamorro boy feel so much pride. He had a purpose, right? And he was in his element. He got to showcase his culture, showcase his skill, right? Climbing up the coconut tree and really serve our visitors. It was such a beautiful experience to witness, because that is the kind of home that we come from, right? It's the kind of home that we are so blessed to steward. And so tonight we've heard from many members of our community, and I'm quite disappointed that we haven't heard from Department of Public Lands or Mariana Global, because I think their voices tonight, it was necessary. They should have been here. So we've heard so many issues around our economy, the visitor experience, the language in these documents. Wow. Yes, very concerning. And that's just to name a few. So, you know, in the spirit of time, I would just like to highly encourage this body to continue this process. I'm really, really so grateful for including the public, for hosting these spaces for us to really collaborate and co-create this design of what we want our home to look like, because it's so important that we not only think about the tourists, but how about our people, right? Our people, the NMDs, the residents, those who choose to live here, even though it's not always easy to live here with the rising cost of utility bills and, you know, transportation, the cost of gas and the cost of living. So keeping that in mind, I highly encourage this body to continue this process. I look forward to the next steps where we can have some time with DPL and Mariana Global. I think it's really important to have us all together to go over the language in these documents, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. It's what's in writing and it's how it's being enforced. So thank you again to this honorable body. I'm really grateful for your service to our people, and Nayanimu, election season. We know how that is. Okay, good night.
Thank you, Ms. Mabalta. Before we proceed, members, you guys okay? You want to take a break or real quick, or should we proceed? Okay, I guess we'll just go ahead and proceed. Please state your name for the record and the entity you represent, and try to keep it to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Si Zeus Masi, I'm speaker number 5. Si John Oliver Bolis de los Reyes Palacios Cabrera Pangilinan Sablon Gonzalez. And I speak as follows. Lahin Marianas Zo, and a proud one at that, and I will never, ever live elsewhere other than our cultural homeland that has shaped and have immersively shaped who I am as a Lahin Marianas. I'm a cultural heritage practitioner. I breathe our culture. I speak it, I eat it, I make it, I dance it, and I promote it globally. I'm a cultural performing artist since 19 at Marianas High School. So you can guess, yeah? Tres Nalalahin Mommy, I'm a father of 3 sons, whom my late loving, beautiful wife Charlene of Carolinian descent from Fajusto clan, whom together we bequeathed our indigenous and native cultural practices and cultures being of Tsamoru and Carolinian Refaluash descent from their mother, as I've said. And I want to also beckon espiritu man espiritu ni manamkota ni man mo na kinihita I man mataw I man Tsamoru ni man manyaynata ni man Refaluash ni man mo na kinihita za ugia hit zo pipidin mo na and my wish is that at the end of this public discourse that a mutually amicable, beneficial, and sustainable concession agreement is agreed upon, and one that takes into consideration as follows: that from the experiences of almost 4 decades with PASI tours, that we learn from the past experiences over the last few decades to prevent the prior mistakes in terms of operations, in terms of environmental pollution and degradation of our priceless manyagaha and halakal, to inject more cultural programs and practices, and maximize financial investment of our priceless assets with our world-renowned beaches and waters and limited lands, and taking into consideration that we partner and leverage with our small, surviving marine operators that truly would be the best partners from the ground, literally from the ground, from the ocean, from our waters. May lads of an apipin mo na, no? I mean, who are the best partners in an island tourism destination? So partner with our marine operators, bring them into the fore, and together, the best corporations the world over is one that brings in the members of the community as stockholders, as members of that company, corporations. And so by doing that with investors, it brings the prices down. And it's a win-win, and everybody smiles, and everybody takes a charge because everybody has a stake, a direct investment and environmental stake in that investment. So I respectfully ask Public Land and Marianas Global to consider that, because it's worked. No, the best corporations in the United States. In fact, I go shop at those community stores because the community members of that city are owners of that store, of that department store or mall. It's amazing what things we can do. So I hope that we can incorporate that. I see this as an opportunity, a renowned opportunity for us to incorporate and learn from Palau, for example, from Thailand, from the Maldives, from the Philippines, among other thriving, competing, competitive island resort destination by incorporating universal tourism user fees, tough, or environment management for sustainability. So hopefully the Natural Resources Committee moving forward can consider that so that every arriving passenger, like when we go to these countries, they assess us. In Palau, for example, $50, a green environmental fee. And that money is earmarked for the very purposes that we want to protect our environment for. So let's, Malatanalala ecotourism, work with our native marine operators. I also have a couple of others. Cultural programs, visual and performing arts, culinary demonstrations, chants, storytellings. Marianas Global would, it behooves them to incorporate them so that truly when our tourists come to Halagal or Manyaga, that they leave awed more than the Olympics experience, if you will, because they leave knowing, oh, they know the kamzu, they weave usos, and they barbecued and they cooked and they learn how to chant. They leave and they say, man, go back because it's unlike anywhere else. And that's how we build and make our tourism resilient, unique, and incomparable. Sinamay Labor, please. I know that you're doing your awesome work, Leila, my awesome principal at Cagman High, and now our awesome secretary, to please work with and enforce local resident employment. Again, the best ambassadors are our very own people from the ground. No, consider working and collaborating with indigenous cultural organizations to maximize the visitor experience, like CCVI, Samulinian Cultural Village Inc., the Carolinian nonprofit organizations, those organizations like that work with PSS and the college and whatnot, grooming and advocating, providing programs, cultural, for our students. Work with them and give them those user development fees because it goes back to our people. It's a win-win. And again, it's holistic. And you give them that immersive and you internalize it and they can work together. And to offer ecotourism cultural clinic of sorts for our very own children, youth, and families with immersive indigenous Samoan, native Carolinian, Rifaluwash languages, cultures, traditions, and heritage. Short of a cultural center, it behooves Marianas Global and the public land and the legislature to ensure that we incorporate those so that kids that are visiting and are living here can go to Manyagoha and learn these experiences. It'll be awesome. How cool would that be? And lastly, I want to find out, why would DPL reimburse 50% of the expenses for lube and fuel for the engines, which I beg to be corrected, that the company and the concessionaire will be using for its operations anyway. No? I'd like to find that out. Zangin, how will the engines and the loops and whatnot serve the public areas when it just closes before sundown? I want to find out. I want to make sure that we don't reimburse them for something that they need to do anyways and spend money and redirect that money for our cultural organizations and our kids' cultural immersive experience together with also our tourists. You know what? And please, let's do a good job with this. This is opportunity time to raise revenues and to make sure that our investors are also, they respect us, but at the same time, being able to invest for the long term. Jesus Masi. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. The podium is still open for public comments. Please state your name, the entity you represent, and let's keep it to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Natural Resource Committee. My name is Zania Fleming, and I'm a daughter of the Marianas. I come to you in opposition for the exclusivity rights listed on the agreement with DPL and Marianas Global. Inc. But for many reasons that other people have already spoke, exclusivity to a concessionaire is not good competition. It will have a ripple effect in our economy, and many of the other businesses that pay their taxes on time, as well as other provisions in the section that are giving red flags, most especially the use, the recreational use, and the enforcement that the rangers provide on the island. Many of you have seen on Manigaha, but I'd like to ask all of you to go and visit if you haven't already done so. And look for your own eyes and see that there are violations that are in this agreement that should be looked into. The other thing is, why isn't DPL and MGI here? I know that the closing date for the submission is less than a week away. Will our comments be submitted to DPL and given to them to show that we are in opposition of this concession agreement? I ask your August body to please look into that and plead with DPL to extend it or revise the register to take into account all the businesses and the oppositions for and against this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming. The podium is still open for public comments. All right. I guess seeing there's none, would like to thank the viewing public and the general public that is present tonight. I can assure you that this committee will look into all your concerns, and we will be bringing a DPO in to answer any of our questions. And again, thank you so much for your time and voicing your concerns to this committee. At this point in time, I would like to recognize the vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And having to hear about 16 members of the public express their concerns about the proposed amendments to the agreement, perhaps I think the next move is to invite in DPO and question them with regards to this proposed and express the opposition of many of our general public that have spoken in the podium. So if there's no objection, I would like to recommend that we just move right straight to miscellaneous. If there's none, then we can just adjourn. Miscellaneous. Are there any miscellaneous?
Thank you, Chairman. So I guess we'll move on to item F, miscellaneous. Any discussions? Ready? Moving on to item G, last item on the agenda. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Motion for adjournment has been offered and seconded. Discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. This meeting has been adjourned. Thank you.